Okay, good morning, Bio 20. Here are your notes on the components of blood. Okay, this goes with the assignment 4.1, 11.1. Okay, the components of blood. Okay, so looking at what blood's made of, blood is approximately 55% fluid and 45% cells. Okay, all blood cells are produced by the bone marrow, as we talked about in our last unit. Okay, the percentage of blood cells in blood is called a hematocrit. Okay, the fluid portion of the blood is called plasma. It's composed of about 90% water, allowing it to be called a fluid tissue. Okay, individual cells in the blood work together to form a common purpose. Okay, so we have in our bone marrow, again, we have stem cells. Okay, from our stem cells, they can produce the different other types of cells that we find in our blood, such as our red blood cells, okay, our lymphocytes that have to do with our immune system, okay, basophil, neutrophil, xenophil, macrophages, again, has to do with our immune system, and then platelets. Okay, so plasma also contains blood proteins, glucose, vitamins, minerals, dissolved gases, and waste products from cellular metabolism. So basically, our blood, as we know, it carries everything from our body, whether it's the like CO2 that we need to get rid of, okay, to the O2 that all of our cells need. It takes it all throughout our body to each cell. Okay, and then the large plasma proteins help it to maintain homeostasis. Albumins, okay, which are a group of proteins, okay, they establish the osmotic pressure that draws water back into the capillaries and helps maintain fluid level in the body. Globulins, okay, are a second protein group. They provide protection against invading microbes. Fibrinogens, okay, another protein group, are important in blood clotting. Okay, and so you should know this table, kind of what type of plasma protein and what they're important for. Erythrocytes, okay, a red blood cell that contains hemoglobin and carries oxygen. So that is what a erythrocyte is a red blood cell, contains hemoglobin, carries oxygen. Without hemoglobin, our blood can only carry enough oxygen to sustain life for approximately 4.5 seconds. So really important. We need that hemoglobin for our oxygen to bind to take to all of our cells. Okay, so hemoglobin is what allows humans to live for a few minutes without oxygen, okay, because it's carrying all of the oxygen that we already have in. Okay, there are an estimated 280 million hemoglobin molecules for a single red blood cell. So it's in one tiny cell, 280 million hemoglobin molecules. Okay, hemoglobin is composed of two different parts. So the heme is the iron-containing pigment, basically what the oxygen binds to, and then the globin is the protein structure that allows the oxygen in. When oxygen binds to it, it becomes oxyhemoglobin, okay, as again we've already talked about. Once oxygen is given up to the cells of the body, the shape of the hemoglobin molecule changes, causing the reflection of blue light. Okay, this is what gives your veins that blue appearance. Okay, they aren't actually blue, because if you've ever cut yourself on a vein, you can see it's still red blood coming out. But it's just when the hemoglobin gives off the oxygen, okay, it kind of changes that reflection of blue light. Okay, red blood cells are biconcave, so they curve in on both sides. I'll show you the shape, I think, on the neck, or no. So in that biconcave, they curve in on both sides. Again, we're just looking to get the most surface area for gas exchange. The more oxygen that can kind of get onto them, the better we survive. Okay, red blood cells can only live about 120 days before they rupture, so cell reproduction is essential. Okay, you have to continually be making these new cells. Okay, and red blood cells are enucleated, which means they don't actually have a nucleus. So when they mature, uh, they get rid of this nucleus. This allows for more room to carry hemoglobin. Really, what their job is to have this hemoglobin to connect to the oxygen. Okay, if a cell doesn't have a nucleus, how can it copy itself? Again, the answer is it doesn't copy itself. It's made from the stem cells in the bone marrow. And so, yeah, this kind of shows that concave shape. Again, it's concave on the bottom too, just to allow all of the different, like the most surface area. So a little comic, I want to keep my nucleus, but you must make space for all the hemoglobin. So the absence of a nucleus in the mammalian red blood cells enables them to carry more oxygen. Okay, the average male has about 5.5 billion red blood cells in a milliliter of blood. So in 1 milliliter, 5.5 billion. The average female is about 4.5 billion. Okay, people that live at high altitudes, they need to carry more oxygen. Okay, and so they can have as many as 8 billion red blood cells per milliliter of blood. Again, so that's why like some athletes will train at high altitudes and stuff, because again, this will change their stroke volume, carrying capacity and stuff. Why do you think this change in altitude can change the number of red blood cells? So again, it has to do with the amount of oxygen. Okay? If there's less, we need to carry it to all the cells the same. So they're going to make up for that by producing more red blood cells. Again, what systems does your body have to make sure you have enough red blood cells? And we'll discuss that as we go. So specialized white blood cells, again, the spleen and liver monitor the age of the red blood cells. They remove debris from the circulatory system. Okay, so basically these specialized white blood cells, they take care of all the red blood cells and make sure that if they're old, they get removed, and anything else that might be in there in our circulatory system. So when the red blood cells are broken down, the hemoglobin molecules are released and then can be reused by new red blood cells. Okay, the iron that was being carried by the heme is collected and stored in the liver and the bone marrow to help produce new red blood cells. Heme is transformed and the heme is then transformed into bile pigments. So a deficiency in hemoglobin or in red blood cells decreases the delivery of oxygen to tissues. Okay, this is a condition called anemia. Okay, so anemia can be caused from extensive blood loss, okay, or for a deficiency in iron. Okay, another deficiency that can occur is hemochromatitis or chromatosis, okay, which is where too much iron attaches to the red blood cell. It builds up in the liver when it's stored, as well as in the heart, which then can lead to death if it's not treated. Okay, some other types of cells. So again, we have all the red blood cells, okay, but they don't make up all of our blood. We have what we call leukocytes, which are white blood cells. Okay, they're a lot less numerous than red blood cells, so about 700 to 1. So for every 700 red blood cells, we have one white blood cell or leukocyte. Okay, white blood cells have a nucleus, okay, and there's a lot of different types of white blood cells, okay, where all red blood cells are about the same. Okay, so there's granulocytes. Okay, they are small granules in the cytoplasm that can be seen when stained. And agranulocytes, okay, these no granules in the cytoplasm. Okay, both the granulocytes and the agranulocytes, okay, are produced in the bone marrow, but the agranulocytes are modified or changed, okay, in the lymph nodes. And then the function of leukocytes is to destroy invading microbes, okay, by phagocytosis. So again, if we remember back from last year in Science 10, we talked about phagocytosis, which is basically the cell is eating. So basically these leukocytes, these white blood cells, Okay, if they see an invading microbe, they will open up and ingest it. Okay, so kind of showing what's happening here. So similar to the JAWS poster, if you've seen JAWS. Okay, so we have a phagocyte. This is our phagocyte. Okay, so just when you thought it was safe to go back in the plasma, so these are invading microbes. Okay, this phagocyte's going up to eat these invading microbes. Okay, the function of the other white blood cells is to form a special protein called antibodies, which interfere with invading microbes and toxins. Okay, platelets, they do not contain a nucleus and are produced from large nucleated cells in the bone marrow. They're small fragments of cytoplasm break from a megakaryocyte, so large cells in the bone marrow, to form platelets. Okay, they play an important role in blood clotting. As the platelets build up, they basically form a plug to stop bleeding. So they can change shape from round to spiny and release substances to trap more platelets and cause a clotted protein to form. So kind of showing here. So once the blood, if you get a cut or something, okay, we got this platelet party. Okay, they join to each other. Okay, and until they're all stuck. Okay, and then it doesn't allow any more blood out. Okay, so blood clotting is important in the body to prevent loss of blood from a torn or ruptured vessel, okay, whether it's in the body or outside the body. Okay, when a vessel is damaged, the platelets clump together and release a protein called thromboblastin. Okay, this thromboblastin and calcium ions activate a plasma protein called prothrombin. The prothrombin and another plasma protein called fibrinogen, okay, are produced by the liver. Okay, this prothrombin is then turned into thrombin, which causes the splicing of amino acids from the fibrinogen. Okay, this causes the fibrinogen to then turn into fibrin, okay, which are threads which wrap around the damaged area. Okay, these threads also trap all the red blood cells and platelets, okay, leading to a clot, which then stops the bleedings. Okay, so clotting preserves life, but can also threaten it. Okay, a thrombus is a clot that blocks a vessel. Okay, so again, if we have a clot in the wrong place in our body, it can cause backup, change the blood pressure, and so on. Okay, and so if blood can't pass and the local tissues are not supplied with oxygen, okay, then this can lead to a stroke if it occurs in the brain, okay, or if it's in the heart, okay, coronary thrombosis, okay, which can lead to a heart attack. Okay, and embolysis is a clot that is dislodged and is now moving throughout the body like a missile. Okay, so again, cerebral, coronary, and pulmonary embolisms can be deadly. So like if we have this blood clot moving through and all of a sudden gets trapped, okay, in our head or on our heart, okay, or in our lungs, okay, it can be deadly. All right, that's the end of this set of notes. Again, make sure you're continuing to work through and do the assignments.